Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, I want to cover a few things that is super important no matter what kind of practices you do in the area of force energy physics. This is scalar waves, radionics, and all these other things. But you have to understand what these energies are, and apparently I'm the only one that does understand that. So you're at a great disadvantage if you've learned from anybody else, if you're using any of the junk equipment out there. Good luck to you, because you're only working on a primitive psychic level that's being blocked. But as usual, the basics people don't understand. Now, one of the areas that is critically important to judge energy fields with, that is simple and easy once you can develop it, and that's the use of dowsing and pendulums. Now, these have been used for thousands of years, and the type of pendulum you use is very important. So there's many out there, and most, again, are using the wrong pendulums for the wrong situations. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of details right now. Remember, we have my own course. You buy one of our pendulums and you get access to the course for free. There's all sorts of video training there. There are all sorts of charts and courses and everything else there, books, etc., that we've collected over time that you can access by just purchasing one of the pendulums. You also get 2 discs that clear your pendulums out and empower you in general. So there's nothing like it as usual. And if you're not dealing with this organization and myself, the only professional people out there, you're really at a disadvantage. And time is short, and we have very difficult problems to overcome. If you're crippling yourself, being involved with a bunch of really ignorant people that have no idea what they're doing and they're basically stealing money from you. And we have other serious problems. A lot of these people are implants. They are disinformation agents that are carrying very evil energy to anybody in this field because they want to disable us. So believe that or not, whatever it is. But let's talk about pendulums. Now, when you start off with pendulums, one of the things that you generally do, particularly males, they'll tend to get a heavy pendulum. Now, the heavier the pendulum is, the more difficult it is to sense energies. But when you first start off, your energies are kind of in a dense area. So a lot of people like to do that, and most likely you will want to use a metal pendulum. This is not a good idea. So metal pendulums do work, particularly if you have the correct ones. But you have to have the correct ones, and they have to be made a particular way, and you're still going to have to learn how to use them. Ultimately, and what I've done personally here is I've converted over to only using wood for most things, for most energies. But again, once you get advanced, there are certain things which you may want to pick up electromagnetic energies, which means you're going to use a metal pendulum. If you're using an old style radionic machine that has metal wires in it, you're going to probably get better results using a light metal pendulum. Using things like stones and crystals and everything else don't really add up. And of course, there's a complicated understanding of what pendulum to use for whatever particular purpose you are doing it for. This is advanced. What you have to do initially is just get your pendulum to work for you. Now, a lot of people cannot do this, and they have trouble sensing the energies. Now, this is something you just have to work on, and you have to remove and cross yourself from that blockage, which generally society wants to keep you in this numbed area. So you're going to have to experiment with things, but you have to experiment with the right tools. Again, if you're going out and buying some piece of junk at some New Age shop or at a fair, and it's a crystal or stone, well, those all have energies in them. So, I mean, you want something that's neutral for most of your practices. Now, again, if you're using, and we've used these for many years with traditional radionic units, and these work with all radionic units, even my very advanced stuff. But they are metals, so you're still not picking up the real energies, which scalar waves are non-electromagnetic. This is something that has to be understood. And of course, apparently none of the idiots out there do that. After all, they got teachings that are 100 years old, and most of them got it from people that are worthless. This is a very good one that we're offering now. We offer these 2 in a set. with the free instructions. Very, very good, both of these. And when you first start off, we're finding out that most people prefer this because it tends to pick up energy in a way. And there is something to the shapes. The energy comes up here from what you're holding it on. It comes up, and then what you really need is that this kind of pulls it up, and then this picks it up. That's why it's important to have some sort of ball. This does the same thing. It has the point here, and you have this ball that picks it up. This tends to be a little more sensitive. But they're both good depending on what you want to use it for. And these are both very good for traditional radionics, particularly if there's any kind of, as I said, metal wires in there. But these work in any radionics in general, and we've recommended those for years. And a lot of people like the metal to start off with. But remember, metal is conductive. So you're conducting what? You're conducting electromagnetic energies, which could be detrimental to you in the terms that if you're picking up electromagnetic energies, you're not picking up these scalar energies that real manifesting machines put out. You have to understand that. You got to understand that scalar energies mean non-electromagnetic. And we have to define this and understand the energies we're working with. And of course, since I manufacture machines and have done research in this area for many, many years, 40 years, author of 35 books, 5 courses, been on BBC and CNN. You know, I'm the foremost expert in radionics on the planet and have been for many, many years. Nobody even come close to me. They have not done the study. They don't have the years in. And of course, I've manufactured, I've researched, I've done all of this. Most people do one thing or another, and they're basically only hawking their machines. I sell all sorts of tech anyway. But the point is, valid tech is valid tech, and I'm the only one that sells it. If you have a problem with that, use the inferior stuff and find out what kind of bad results you get. But what I've been using recently, as I get further and further away from the electromagnetic, which is what we have to do, is we're moving into things that are not conductive of electromagnetic energies at any kind of level. And that is wood. So I found that the wood, which you can make very large pendulums, you'll see some of them right here, can be very large. But the beauty of this picks up a lot of energies that you hold it over. But it's not heavy, and as such, you can sense the finest energies. And you'll notice that from all these shapes. And the shapes have different uses for different energy fields, and you have to find one for the particular energy that you are using it for. I mean, the basic good, the basic shape that works for pretty much everything is this shape right here. It's a good idea to get a stand like this. I don't sell these, but you can get them at eBay, Amazon, and all the other people. This is your basic really good shape for everything. You've got that real nice point here, so the energies kind of are pulled up, and then they're drawn up, and then they hit this area here and go into the ball area, which kind of drags them in and gives you very sensitive. And the nice thing, as I said, this is very large. Look at it compared to even this one, which is kind of large. Look at how much sensing area space you have around it. The same thing with this. Look at all the sensing area you have. But you don't have something that's really heavy, because heavy means difficult to sense. So you want something that's very light that can pick up these scalar energies, these non-electromagnetic fields. And again, wood is not conducting, at least not to any extent. Some people claim it is because wood basically has water in it. I'm not sure how much water is in this after it's been cured for many months or even years. But actually, wood is semi-conducting. But let's not get into that because it's really not conducting enough to do much of anything, particularly in the force energy physics we're dealing with here. And you got to remember that scalar energies are very forceful energies of creation. The occultons that make up the universe is what you're tapping into. So you got to remember, if the universe is being made out of these energy forms, then they must be very powerful. And they are. So don't be fooled by that. And don't think that because you heard the electromagnetic, because that's all that the idiot scientists of our reality can sense, that there's anything to it. But the bottom line is that when you get into real powerful energies, energies that built the pyramids and moved those blocks, well, pyramid energy in general. And of course, that's not necessarily what built the pyramids, but the bottom line is that it's all scalar energy. There's no electromagnetism to a pyramid unless the shape itself is starting to create some of that. Because everything comes from scalar energies, and scalar energies create the electromagnetic, which is a very primitive energy that the primitive mankind uses. And of course, then you have to run generators. Generators have to use a fuel source. So we get back to how primitive it is ultimately if you're trying to generate electromagnetism, which of course our entire society is ran on. So there is a problem there when you run everything on that. Because it's not renewable. So you're going to have to burn something to turn your turbines to generate electricity. You can do this with water. You can do it with wind. All of these things tend to be undependable to a certain extent. So you end up getting back to what is dependable, and that's pouring in oil to burn something. But the bottom line is you have to, you can see the different shapes here, but the weight of these is very light. But yet, as I said, you have all this energy to grab what you're holding something over. The whole move by everybody, whether you've been using pendulums for years or not, most likely everything you're doing is wrong because the information you got it from is from wrong people who are deliberately misleading you to disempower you. Remember that. This world is very complicated, and there's very few people out there that are going to tell you the truth and guide you in the right direction. It's just as simple as that. They're there to enslave, mislead you, and disempower you. So the whole idea is you want to get something like this that is wood. You use this chain here, and as I said, we sell these as well, so do check it out, and you get access to the course with it. These are great tools. And of course, you get those all-important clearing discs. If you're not using advanced tech, what's wrong with you? And if you want to be cheap and stupid, well, you'll be cheap and stupid with the rest of the other people out there who are losers. So the whole idea is that you have to invest in your life and invest in your time and learn some good skills. So if you can't dowse properly, you're not going to be able to do much of anything. You have to sense energy fields. And this is where all the tuning comes in. Now, we've tried to eliminate this with our super advanced rate energy disc systems that have the rates already on there for you. And then you put it in a machine and then you project it out. Or you can even use these discs on their own to charge crystals. You can put candles on top of them with your photograph. There's lots of ways of using discs, and we'll be showing you that very soon in a video. But this is really the new breakthrough. There's nothing new about wood pendulums in general. They've been around for many, many years, and I think they've been neglected. I think people find the metally stuff more attractive. Here's even a multi-metal, which does have its own uses, and it's a very interesting energy force. You also have things that are empty. Here's a plastic one. And of course, plastic is not a conductor of electromagnetism. So plastic is not bad for certain uses, but you insert whatever you're searching for, and you'd hold this over. If you were looking for a mineral or something lost, you could then insert in here, like let's say silver, and hold it over a map and say, is there silver in this area? These are all the advanced uses. Here's another metal one that looks like a bullet. And again, this is not the greatest because, yes, it does have the tip, but it doesn't really have the round ball that is so important to pick up energies with. So there is a lot of rhyme and reason to pendulums, and they're made just about from anything. And to think that you can get a ring and put it on a string and use it as a pendulum, well, all this stuff is amateurish junk that is taught to you by a bunch of people who know nothing about the subject matter. Just like everybody has psychic power. Do they? Well, yeah, I mean, they have psychic energy to keep their body going. They have basic low-level abilities, but there are very few powerfully psychic people. Very few. And you can't train people into high levels. You can train people to be kind of a technician, depending on how dedicated they are. But some people have more abilities than others, and we see this in all of life. Some people love math and can adjust to it and function with it without a problem. And we can go through so many other things that some people have a natural ability towards. These are the people that become masters at something. So just because you're 7 feet doesn't mean you can play basketball. And they've had a lot of problems with very tall people that can't play basketball. So let's remember that of understanding what's going on. So anybody that tells you anybody can do this is lying to you. That's a con game to get your money. You have to practice it, and you're going to reach a level that you are able to reach based on natural abilities, understanding what's going on, and of course, like anything, practice. So, most people, if they have the right teachers and follow the proper courses, can reach a level of competency which is fairly good. Most people can get to the level of technician. Becoming a master or an expert is a level that takes some natural abilities and greater consciousness. This usually comes from understanding the way of this planet and not understanding by taking a course in dowsing. So if you understand the bigger picture, oftentimes this will move you up from a technician to an expert and to a master. So the process is not what it is. People just can't train to be something, especially if it's very powerful. You have to reach higher states of consciousness. These are the secrets, and this is what people lie to you about. But of course, these people telling you these lies have no consciousness and likely don't have any abilities either. So, one of the most important things in life that you need to know is what doesn't work and who is lying to you and where are you getting your information from? Whom are these people? All of this is very important because we're delving into areas of high consciousness that require high level understanding to achieve high levels of. You want to be a good dowser, you're going to have to get past the common understandings of life. And that means if you're dealing with the common people out there who are teaching all this nonsense, you're not going to do well. So who are they? What are they up to and everything else? And sadly, in this day and age, we have an entire population of controlled disinformation agents or just delusional people and people who are very evil, who are out there selling you a bunch of junk to hurt you. This is the way it is and to stop your process. Many of these people just go ahead and advertise it, and it doesn't seem to be a problem. People don't think it's bad that you're a criminal, you're an evil person that's involved in criminal activity, in people smuggling, in pedophilia. All this stuff nobody really cares about, apparently, because that's who the bad people are, and that's what they're doing. So you got to be very careful for your own energetic sake, and if you support these people, you're part of the problem. And that's really what's happening as a society. People are supporting bad people, ignorant people that don't know their subject matter. But getting back to the pendulums, as I said here, so that everything's a bigger picture, people. You're just not going to go out and get a pendulum and master it because you want to. There's a whole bunch of things out there. And of course, if you don't have a certain consciousness level, the energies that are out there that empower people to do well in things are not going to empower you. Get real. So the whole idea is that you've got to know what you're doing. So what we're telling people to begin with is that it's probably best to get metal and wood pendulums when you start off. It's good to have several types of pendulum. You don't need hundreds of them, but it would be probably a good idea to have 4 or 5, a couple of metal ones, a couple of wood ones, maybe some other shape or material you like. But remember, when you're getting materials that have energies in them, particularly things like crystals or stones, well, that stone is vibrating already in energy. So you're not getting something that's neutral. You're getting something, you may like the stone, but it doesn't really help you. It actually hurts the process. So what you're doing here is picking up these non-electromagnetic energies. And of course, you don't need metal, and metal is going to actually hurt picking up non-electromagnetic energies because it's going to be picking up the electromagnetism around it and not the scalar energies, which have nothing to do with it. So using metal pendulums generally is a negative depending on your purpose. Now, if you're dealing with electromagnetic energies and so forth, using a metal pendulum may be something that works for you. You also have to be very careful that you're not making the pendulum move. This is a big problem, which everybody does. Your arms and your fingers should stay as stiff as possible. And of course, with your actual, with your actual elbow, with your actual elbow resting on the table. So it's hard with these things to get back. So your whole idea is you're holding this, and you can hold it in the air, but if you hold it like this, make sure you're keeping your arm as stiff as possible, and make sure you're not moving it like this. I went to one person who claimed they were an expert pendulum person, and their fingers were moving like this. They were doing this. What is that? They were overemphasizing what they were doing, and the point is that's not good pendulum work. A good pendulum work is you don't move your fingers and arms at all. What you're doing, and you can even get holders, almost similar to this, where you can put a pendulum in, put it over something. And I've demonstrated these before. These are all on videos you can get in my course. You actually put this in a device, and then you just put your finger... You put your finger on top here, so you're transferring the energy through there, but there's no way of spinning it. This is when you get into really advanced pendulum work that you will not have any errors with. The criticism of some bogus bullpuckies, is they call it the idiot nerve motor response or something like that. The whole idea is they're saying that your muscles are doing that. Well, your muscles can't turn anything if you're just touching them here. So there's lots of ways to make pendulum work 100% non-affected by you. Now, that takes a high level of sensitivity that few people can have, but there are many devices like that, and as I said, I've talked about this in a lot of my video training and the training courses that we have, and these courses are pretty much going only into our training course. They are going to be taken offline, many of them, and so that only the people that are supporting this organization using the right tools. So if you want to use your old junky tools, and not follow proper teachings, well, then there's a problem there. And a lot of people want to do that. And the problem is, I wouldn't, other people that offer other courses are pretty much all ignorant and don't know what they're doing. Now, they may be able to do some dowsing work of some value for themselves. But what I train, which I've been doing for over 40 years now, is tried and true and works. And we're not stuck in old paragrams. We do use the latest and greatest, just as we're now moving into, as a general rule now, we're moving into using actual wood, because wood is not a conductive material, as I've mentioned. And that's important. You want to get electromagnetism picked up in your pendulum? Why? You're not using that energy. If you're picking up the electromagnetic, which comes from lights, TVs, your house, you're interfering with the process. So there's many, many things. Now, we're talking about mostly the pendulum work that is talked about right now, and it's a very large field, and people claim to do everything with pendulums. I'm not so sure about that, and it limits you. You send energy, you receive energy, but mostly we're talking about receiving energy and getting a particular type of information. So you can find out if what you're working with has positive, negative, or neutral energies, and this is what, or you're trying to dial in a particular dial, or you're trying to find out information. You're not really sending or projecting energies using a pendulum. Now, a lot of people do this. It's a pretty primitive way. I mean, that's why we have very advanced technology, like you can see right here, huge amplifiers and transmitters. This is the real world, and people that want to use pendulums to send energy is pretty much ass backwards, and you're very weak in a time when, the energies out there are really nasty, people. We're in very bad times. You really think this little putsch that may have worked in the 50s is going to now work in the 21st century? You really think so? Well, I think that's a very ignorant way of looking at things. And your psychic abilities are pathetic. Everybody's is. And they burn out within 2 to 5 minutes. Once you've used psychic power for over 2 to 5 minutes, you are down to zero. So you can't sustain that, and you need to sustain the projection of energy literally over hours, and that's what you use technologies for. As you said, these are for gathering information, finding out what a field from something is, getting yes and no answers is what's going on in the force, energy, physics, energy spectrum, so you can then use that information. There's no other way of doing it. There really are no meters that pick up any of this stuff. People have been trying to do this for years, and meters are pretty inferior no matter what type you use. If you're good and you spent years learning how to go into neutral and how not to influence things by spinning the pendulum with your fingers or thinking bad thoughts or all the things that go with it, trying to influence them. If you can go into neutral and get the proper answer, the best tool to do that with is your consciousness. And this is something that you can do. You can certainly go into neutral, and then you'll find out how accurate you tend to be. So this is all part and parcel of the entire process. Pendulums are very important. There's many different ways to use these, but you can train people in endless ways, and I'm trying to cut down on all that stuff and making training short and specific. And how many pendulums can you use? How many devices? Well, it really depends on what you're doing. But one thing for certain is the one thing that everybody needs to use is to become at a high proficiency level. You basically should be at expert level of the use of pendulums if you're going to be able to test anything, because that's the only way. As I said, if you get a meter, which are all based on electromagnetism, it's ridiculous. It's like trying to sense water by using an electrical meter. No, you need a water sensing meter. Something that senses moisture, not something that senses electromagnetism. So this is what we're running into, and this is the big confusion that people are going to have beat into their brains, who you've been trained by. As I said, there are deliberate saboteurs out there that want to make sure that you fail. The system fears you. Those who have personal power is something that society doesn't want. If you learn manifesting science, which is what this is really all about, you free yourself from everything and you're able to access all the information you need and to change and empower your life. And that's what it's all about. In the end, life is all about manifesting. And this is one of the major manifestation tools, as well as using manifesting machines where you can send energy out for long periods of time. This is all the stuff that works. It works well. I have thousands of testimonials of people who are very successful, and this is, of course, what it comes down to. You want to change your life? Well, this is all part of the process. You want to be swept in by all of the bad tech out there and all the things that will really cripple and at a level even kill you at a metaphysical level, then you get involved with all the bad stuff out there. So that's the reality to it. So if you're watching this, you've been very lucky to find this. Make sure you follow through. Make sure you support the people that know what they're doing so that you benefit from it. As I said, one of the most things important in life to learn is what doesn't work. If you know what doesn't work, you don't spend your time wasting your entire life and your money on something that will never, ever work for you. That's the first step, because when you find out what doesn't work, you're one step closer to finding out what does. Until next time.